2 a.m. Dessert Bar at Holland Village is a late-night haven for dessert and wine lovers. In this video, the young and edgy owner and chef behind this dessert avenue tells us why desserts should deserve more attention in Singapore. Now, Janice, you studied economics at NUS, but obviously you had no intentions of ending up in the banking sector. So what made you change your mind and go into dessert making?
Okay. I mean, as a kid, I always wanted to follow my dad, do banking and all that, but it was only after I studied in Melbourne for a while, for about six to 8 months, and that really changed my mind completely. When I basked myself in the farms, in fresh produce, fresh fruits, and I was like, we should have this in Singapore, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to change and bring this whole dessert concept idea into Singapore. But it was through an evolution. Well, how I started was immediately I went to Paris. I chose desserts only because, in the business sense, being a girl, being young, you got to position yourself in a way that how the public sees you. And if I were to choose
marketable,
that's right. If I were to choose the culinary side, which is also an interest of mine, if I were to choose that road, I have to compete with at least 100 over very established chefs already. And for me, I felt dessert, this whole the last dish of the meal, was kind of underrated. No one really pays attention to it, and people don't really focus on art on a plate with desserts. And so that whole idea of putting art on the plate and creating the dessert out of it, it's intriguing.
An avid traveler, Janice found that Melbourne opened her eyes to the world of fresh produce and dessert culture. Paris allowed her to pick up real dessert-making skills at the famous Le Cordon Bleu school. And it was New York's modern-style restaurants that taught her about contemporary desserts. So what does our little island have to offer her?
I grew up with my family in Hong Kong and Tokyo. So I was there for at least 7 years, both cities.
In Tokyo, Hong Kong.
Tokyo and Hong Kong, yeah.
And now you're back in Singapore.
Yeah, that's right. So we would travel just for a pigeon or just for the best noodles and food. So
that's interesting, taking all of these experiences and coming back to Singapore. Now you studied at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris. Why not set up a dessert shop in Paris? Why come back to Singapore?
Well, I feel that the culture in Paris, you cannot just kind of barge in and change their mentality, or modern desserts are the new thing, because they are very rooted to their classical sweets, and they support the classical sweets a lot. And if I were to do it, I don't think I would actually survive that cutthroat industry over there. Yeah, so for me, I'm more interested in playing around with new dishes, new ingredients, even putting some of our savory ingredients into the dishes. We have beetroot. I just use a red radish and infuse red radish into a syrup, and it's a glossy pink. It's beautiful. So I can't do that in Paris. It's pretty strict over there, classical desserts. All right, I want my lemon tart.
Okay, now speaking of savory in desserts, there is a trend of a lot of desserts going savory.
Right.
So what else have you planned?
There is a very thin line to that, because when you do too much, people will be like, this is a savory course. So for us, we do it as garnishes. So the main component is still sweet. It's still a dessert. You still feel like, oh, this is the last meal, the day. This is satisfying. But the garnishes are just meant to excite you, kind of tantalize your palate. And so we put a bit of garnishes like leaves, beetroot sponge, just tinges here and there, but not too extravagant. Yeah.
Don't go away. In the next clip, we try out a handsome dessert called Le Marc.